The Blast from Our Past Network.
Hey everybody, co-host Corey here. I just wanted to take a second and say thank you to all of our Patreon members who help support the show. Each month, they get access to The Carpenter Factor, Wrap Up After Dark, and all kinds of other fun exclusive content. You can sign up for our Patreon over at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Again, that's patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Other ways you can help support the show and help us grow is leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We also have a merch store where you can pick up a t-shirt or two, as well as some other fun items. You can find every link to our podcatchers, to our merch store, to Patreon, everything at podcastingafterdark.com. That's podcastingafterdark.com.
Podcasting After Dark presents TV Obscura, a deep dive into underrated and unknown television shows from our youth. Cartoons, sitcoms, cop shows, and much more. Sit back and enjoy some nostalgic fun with TV Obscura.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this month's episode of Podcasting After Dark presents TV Obscura. I am 1/3 of the TV Obscura team, Corey, a.k.a. Sleazy C. Joined with me, as always, are my two brothers from other mothers, Zach, the Total Snack at Schaefer, and Diallo, the Armageddon Jackson. And this month, we are doing part 1 of a 2-part series. We are bringing back the watch list, thanks to Lee Germani last month when we did the Anchor Bay watch list. It was so much fun that we decided to bring it over to TV Obscura, and this episode is for Diallo. This is a love letter to Diallo, and we are talking our favorite live-action TV show theme songs, and we're going to be listing them and everything like a normal watch list. And next month will be a love letter to Zach, because we will be doing part 2 will be nostalgic cartoon theme songs that we'll be covering. So this is a very musical 2-part series. But Diallo, how much time prep work did you put into your list for this?
I mean, not counting the last 3 days. I mean, not counting my entire life, I should say. The last 3 days, for sure. But yeah, I like it's the TV theme songs is a thing for me. So I was born for this.
Well, the funny thing is, we actually told Bill Thornbury, who plays Jody in Phantasm, that you have a love for theme songs. And I forgot what the topic of the conversation was, but you came up. I think it was Bill Thornbury's interview, right, Zach? I know we mentioned it recently.
Oh, no. We'll also Kathy Christopherson. We had mentioned
that's the interview. It was, yeah.
Sitcom, or not a sitcom, but a TV show she did with Martin Kove. And we were talking about how you, Diallo, know the lyrics, or not the lyrics, you know every theme song there is to know when it comes to theme songs.
I even think we said it was your mutant power.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like I know quite a few. I don't know all of them, but it's just I don't know why they stuck in my brain when I was like growing up, and I don't know, sing them.
You just put out this vibe, and it just comes back to you.
They just come back to me, man. I'm really upset. I've been upset. I'm upset. Like, kind of when Lost came out, it kind of killed opening theme songs. Like as a rule, like they still exist, obviously, for some shows, but it used to be like a feature of shows, and now they're just kind of like. They're there sometimes and it doesn't matter, and there's a skip button, people like skip past. But for me, it was like sometimes I would just watch the opening theme song and not even the show.
Yeah, and when you say theme song, it doesn't necessarily have to have lyrics to it. It's just the theme.
Music.
Was Lost like, in your opinion, the first show? Is that the first major show to not have a theme song?
I mean, I'm sure there were others, but like for me, Lost was like the most noteworthy. It just sort of like it came on the scene and
Stood out to you.
yeah,
too.
it was just the way the style. I mean, it fit for the show because it just like it was that mysterious little, thing. So it was perfect for that. But I noticed after a while they started doing that for a lot of other shows.
Right.
Like 24 came out before that, and it didn't really have a theme song either to open it. But again, those all fit. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but it's just like it was such a appointment for me when I was growing up and in my 20s and early 30s. It's to listen to theme songs.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, and
I was just going to add to that point, is that Myra and I are watching, Bad Batch on Disney Plus, and all that is just the logo comes up and it's like, dun dun, like there's this ominous sort of music, and then it fades into what the title of the episode's called, and that's it. It's like, I don't know, 10-second fanfare. There is no, theme. I mean, I guess that is the theme. There is like a theme, a cue to it, but that's it. There's nothing else to it.
One thing I have noticed, like now that you brought up Bad Batch, I haven't watched that, but you made me think of Mandalorian. And one thing that I have noticed, and it's kind of related to something I was thinking a little bit earlier, is a lot of times they would have music when the shows were going off on the air when they were broadcasting the networks, but we never really got to hear that because they were always doing like what was coming up next. So there was always like a voice over. So I never really heard it, but this is the Zach. This is how I found out about the Kate and Allie song, because the song that they sing at the end is from like the end titles. We never really got to hear it before, like
because it was just a jingle in the beginning.
But like
right?
but like when they was on the air, it was like coming up next is blah 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 blah, and they talked over it.
Right.
But now on streaming, like with Mandalorian, I'm thinking of, it's like you get the theme music, but it's at the very, very end where you get the whole suite.
Or if you do get theme music, I'm thinking of Game of Thrones. It's like a 7-minute intro where you're like, okay, just skip this. I've seen it. How many times do I have to see this intro? What do people want to see this long, convoluted thing?
Game of Thrones, everybody watches that. I don't know.
I mean, what I'm saying? Like the after a while, it was like, I don't need to see this long.
Yeah, I literally know people they're like, Game of Thrones is the only one that they will watch
for that thing. Yeah. There's a show. What's that show on Apple TV? The Set in the Future.
For All Mankind, or
no? It's with Lee Pace is in it.
Foundation.
Yeah. They do the same deal, and you're just like, okay. I mean, I personally, that just doesn't do it. That just doesn't do it for me. So, but that's just my own personal preference. I'm not a huge fan of the long.
It's got to be catchy though, too.
Out.
It can't just exist. Like I
that's
do
the thing.
think that
it's not catchy to me.
Yeah, I think that I know it's like I love Shogun. Not saying anything bad about Shogun, but I noticed that opening sequence is like really long, but the music doesn't really like grab me. Like I feel like it's
not captivating.
It's wanting to like, and I always kind of like joke. I kind of start humming the Game of Thrones tune when it's opening because it's kind of like it feels like it's trying to be like that in some way. But anyway, it has to be catchy, and a lot of the songs I think because they were a part of the show, they actually put a lot of stuff into actually making it. And there's a lot of pedigree that I kind of didn't realize until I started doing some research for the shows I was doing, how connected like songwriters were that did multiple songs, and I think that's why they caught on the way that they did. So
and they were so damn catchy back in the day as well.
Catchy, and I find myself too just being taken back to the time when I watched those shows and where was I in my life, and maybe that's why, it is why I stay connected to these songs. I mean, my picks are all on my workout playlist because I like having these songs keep me motivated. We all have different reasons why we chose our songs, and we'll get to all that in a minute, but the thing is about like TV theme songs, when I think of a theme song, I think Game of Thrones is a perfect example. Like people love that song and they hum along to it or they make up their own lyrics. I've done the same. But, if that's the modern era for catchy theme songs, it's so much different than what we're talking about today on the show.
Yeah, and it's sad that even like some of these like throwback, sort of retro style sitcoms that you find on Netflix and whatnot, some of them don't even have like theme songs. It's like, just go the full tilt boogie and do the whole thing, do the whole thing correctly.
Yeah.
But Zach, kind of talking to your picks and also Diallo's picks, we all made sure that we could listen to each other's picks before this so we could have an idea of what that song sounds like. And, I'm sitting here, we have a shared list, and here's all Diallo's picks and here's all Zach's picks. And, I'm listening to all of Diallo's songs, and I'm like, yeah, these are all Diallo style songs. And I get to Zach's picks, and they're all so very Zach, because I've known you guys for so long now, and I'm just like, these are all so both of you guys, and I love it. I love that it's like this, and I'm sure the same is for me. I don't know, but like, I love that it's a representation of who we are and sort of our sensibilities and what we love. But I mean, I think all three of us have some bangers, some absolute bangers. I think they're awesome. And then I'm also very shocked one in particular is not on Diallo's list, but we will.
Well, you know why it's not on my list, because I was asking you guys if we could make it 100 of our top favorite songs.
I know. And it was hard. It was very hard narrowing this down to 3. Like, seriously, that was tough. But we also know that, like, there's going to be a lot of discussion during the course of this. And with the 3 of us having 3, technically 4 picks, because we're going to have an honorable mention as well. I think it'd be a 3-hour show if we did like 5 picks, Well,
I think too, I already am envisioning now my top 3 are probably going to change at some point. So this is the top 3 currently, but I could see the other day I was listening to a song. I'm like, maybe that should be in my top. Well, it could be, but I'll just stick with these. I'll stick with these. Done. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm locked in.
Yeah, it was tough. I spent like solid 3 days listening to partly because that's I love it anyway. And it's probably like the happiest I've been in the last few months, just like in general life, because it takes you back. But I love theme songs. I don't know what it is, but I love them. But the ones I picked like, it's not necessarily that they're like my 1, 2, and 3 so much, or that they are on top, but I felt like they fit best for what we were doing today. And like, there's some of the songs that I like that are on some of your lists. I just didn't put them on there. And then there's other, there's so many other songs I could have picked, and I just was like, I want this one, I want that one, but I left them off. And but I'm happy with what I picked. So
yeah. Well, I'm also hoping we hear from listeners as well. Either, send us an email. You can find our email address over at podcastingafterdark.com, or, leave a message on social media and stuff like that, or on Patreon. But I would also like to hear from our listeners what their favorite songs are, or how, if ours made their list and stuff like that too.
Yeah, leave a message on our answering machine and we'll call you back.
Exactly.
We're about to do our first musical episode of TV Obscura.
Well, we've been doing it so long that it's time to do a musical episode, because that's always how it happens, right? After a few years, right. They need to do one.
Speaking of theme songs, this isn't on my list, but there was a musical episode of Love Boat back in the day. Yeah.
That's funny because I feel like it's such a new thing, and I always feel like it's sort of started around that Buffy era where you take like a serious show and make it a musical. But it's interesting that it actually goes back to Love Boat and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's time for the TV Obscura musical episode.
Right. I will say really quickly, because Diallo mentioned it. He and I were with Paul at a horror-thon last year, and the one they do here at the Aero Theater, it's very silly. It's very Adult Swim-esque, where they have these little skits in between the movies, and a pre-show which involves a lot of reoccurring characters over the 17 years they've been doing this horror-thon. And one of them is the Gorn from Star Trek, but they call him the Corn Gorn because he walks around with a piece of corn in his hand, and they're like, "All hail Corn Gorn!" And you've got like evil Abraham Lincoln and like all these random characters. Anyways, the theme this year was like AI taking over, and and they would normally show excerpts from an episode of TJ Hooker throughout this pre-show, and it's really just stupid. But this year they changed it up and they showed Kate and Allie, and they kept playing the theme song over and over and over. And I'm like, man, this song's really good to Diallo. And he started, he's over there singing along, eating his popcorn. Okay, my friend. Huh? Yeah, no, yeah, it's great. And so I'm just like, man, this song is I forgot how good this one is.
That's a really good song. Like
it is. And I almost factored it into mine. And I was like, what this came down to for me personally, with the exception of one or two, was, and we talked about this, the three of us, just because we like a theme song doesn't mean we like the show. Mm-hmm. So we may bring that up in our episodes as well. Kate and Allie, like, I know, Diallo, you wrote something on Facebook at one point kind of goofing on it.
Yeah.
Because it was serious. Like, we all watch Kate and Allie, but we're like these kids watching Kate and Allie back in the day.
Yeah.
But so we'll bring that up as well, whether the show is maintained the solidness that the theme song had.
I don't remember the Kate and Allie theme song off the top of my head, but I did watch the shit out of that show as a kid. And you're sitting here talking about it, and I'm just like flooding my brain because I was like, oh my God, I haven't thought about Kate and Allie in like 30 fucking years, But, but that was a show that I would watch all the time, and it's like, why? I don't know.
It was like two divorced moms raising their kids in New York City. It's like, what was I doing as like a teenager? Like every week tuning in and watching the show. I had nothing like. There's nothing in my life that was close to that, but it was like I loved the show. It was amazing.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Love the theme song.
I just say now to all those young kids listening, and of which there's probably zero, but I do say to anybody who doesn't remember that era, that's all we had, folks. So we were desperate for content. So we're like, what's on right now? It's either McNeil Lair News Hour or Kate and Allie. Let's go with Kate and Allie.
Oh, man. The McNeil Lair, whenever it was like the McNeil Lair report came on, I was like, oh, that's the end of fun.
I know. I'm surprised that theme song didn't come up for you or Corey.
Oh, that's kind of...
really quickly, off the bat, I just have to say, the fact that Buck Rogers is not on any of our lists is kind of a shocker to me.
It's kind of a shocker that the Greatest American Hero is not on any of our lists either.
There was that, like, again, they were like...
Yeah.
I listened to all. It's just like we had to pick certain things.
This should have been a top 20, top 50. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
man.
like Battlestar Galactica. I'm doing like that. I mean, that's one of my all-time favorites. But I was just like, oh no,
Well, then I might add that little caveat. Then I might say this is our first annual TV Obscura top TV show theme song list, and then every year we just pick 3 with an honorable mention. Doesn't have to be our top 3, but it's just 3 that we chose. How about that?
Perfect. You heard it here first. We love our annual, like when we do our annual wrestling one and everything. Perfect, Zach. This will be our annual thing that we do. I love it. So yeah, Greatest American Hero will probably come back, and with the caveat is we will never pick these songs, again. It'll always be something new. I love it. I love that so much. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, so we'll do that and cartoons.
Yeah, for sure. Because we're going to have the exact same conversation next month with how hard it was pulling the cartoon theme song. So, you know what? I do literally right at this moment, I felt a giant weight just lifted off my shoulders. And this will be an annual show that we do, and I love that idea. And and I got it because I was also thinking too that this could be like there could be a part 3 because none of us picked. And I kind of did, but it's my honorable mention, but it's because none of us picked any theme songs that were just instrumental. Like, we all picked lyric-based theme songs, and I'd say there's, like, equal amount of just instrumental theme songs out there as well. So maybe we can start peppering those in at some point, too. But I was already thinking about, like, us having to do, like, another episode just to cover instrumental theme songs.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Absolutely,
they'll definitely come up. That's for sure. Cause there were quite a few that I'm like, oh, should I pick that one?
Yeah,
Nah.
there were actually a couple that I contemplated, but I left them off. And I just love everything. I mean, like for everyone listening, we were going to do a dishonorable mention, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I jumped in and requested because I was like, I love every theme song. I can't there's not one that I could say, oh, this is dishonorable. Like I love them all. So I just wanted it's nothing but love for me. Like the ones that I like the least, I still like, So
Yeah.
there's nothing that I could be like, get rid of that. Like it might be different for you guys, but for me, it's just like I couldn't even think of one that I did not like. So
No, I think what determined it for me, and I was in agreement with you, was it wasn't the fact that we didn't like the theme song. There was just some of these shows that we didn't like.
Yeah.
And there are some shows that I don't use this word lightly. I just despise with a passion. I hate some of these shows, but I really love their theme songs. So those will come up too on our list.
Yeah.
there were a couple shows that I literally did not regularly watch, but I contemplated putting them up on my list because I like the theme songs that much. So
Well, that's
Wow,
kind of
yeah.
also how, spoiler alert for next month, like Gem and the Holograms was kind of like that for me, where I didn't watch the cartoon as a kid, but I love that theme song. So
Yeah.
it's, and then, there's another show, live action show that I can talk about that I love the theme song, but I didn't really quite care for the show. I think Zach knows what I'm talking about. But
Oh, yeah.
we'll get into all of that. I am excited
into
to dive into these three lists because I think we have a lot of fun here. I think we're going to have a lot of fun here, and hopefully it'll bring back some memories for our listeners out there, like how Kate and Allie just flooded my brain, and I hadn't thought about that show in 30 years, and so
Along comes a friend. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
things start working fine. Sometimes tears and sorrow are all the things you got. Just when you think you're all by yourself, you're not. All right.
And so, Diallo, since this one is for you, buddy, you're going to kick us off. And guys and gals, we're going to do this a little. We've kind of changed the format since back in the day. Diallo's going to go through all of his in order. We'll talk about them each one at a time. But we know that we don't have any crossovers, so we can talk freely about each show as Diallo mentions them. And he's going to dump all of his, then Zach's going to do all of his, and I'll do mine. But we'll have a discussion in between each one, and I will also be inserting, I guess, probably 30 seconds of the theme song after every mention, so that way we don't get flagged on Spotify or whatever. I think 30 seconds is kind of what you can sort of do. So
Well, we're also reviewing the song. Well, we're kind of reviewing it, so you get away with that. If
Yeah,
you do
should
get
be
flagged, you just mark it as a review.
okay, very cool. Thank you. Good to know. Good to know. So
Speaking from
yeah,
experience.
so Diallo, kick us off, baby. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is from Maud, and the song is "And Then There's Maud."
Lady Godiva was a freedom rider. She didn't care if the whole world looked. Joan of Arc with the Lord to guide her. She was a sister who really cooked. Isadora was the first bra burner. Ain't you glad she showed up? And when the country was falling apart, Betsy Ross got it all sewed up.
And then there's Maud.
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 And then there's Maud. That uncompromising, enterprising, anything but tranquilizing. Right on, Maud.
So Maud, it was a show that was on in the 70s. Is actually a spin-off of All in the Family, which is a little tidbit. It's in the Norman Lear family of shows.
Was she a neighbor of them?
She was the cousin to, I think, Edith on Archie Bunker. Edith's her name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it starred B. Arthur. It had Adrienne Barbeau was her daughter.
Yep.
Bill Macy was her fourth husband, it's a very important point. That's her fourth husband. And Conrad Bain, Mr. Drummond from Different Strokes a few years later was on it. Her future co-star of the Golden Girls, who I once got canceled for making a joke about, Blanche on Golden Girls. She was on it. And I remember when that was good times. But anyways, and speaking of good times was a spinoff of Maude also.
Wait, of Maude or All in the Family?
Of Maude.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, because Florida, she was the maid in Maude's house.
Okay.
And then she left because her husband got a job, and then they started Good Times.
I'm so fascinated by TV show spin-offs and sometimes how deep they can go and kind of keep going, and you're like, how is this show a spin-off technically of that one all the way down there? But I love that shit.
Yeah, that Norman Lear family, they had there was maybe 8 or 9 different shows in that little thing. But yeah, anyway, so the name of the song was and then there's Maude. It was composed by David Grusson and lyrics by Marilyn and Alan Bergman. It was performed by the late, great Donny Hathaway. Donny Hathaway is a soul R&B singer. He sang the best Christmas song ever this Christmas. He also sang a song called The Ghetto. And there's a cool 6 Degrees of Separation that I will go into a little bit later in one of my other songs. It's kind of interesting. But the song itself, and then there's Maude, it's very Donny Hathaway is an R&B singer, so it has that jazzy R&B feel to it. But I think what really hit me besides that, it kind of sounds like a little bit like gospel in some ways, but the lyrics talk about these notable women in history, and it's actually how I learned as a little kid. How I learned a lot. I learned the names of some of these people that I hadn't really heard of before. So it was it was. I think I saw it maybe in reruns or something, and it starts off talking about Lady Godiva. There's a line about Joan of Arc. There's a line about a woman called Isadora, and then at the very end is Betsy Ross. So I just always thought that was really cool, that it kind of put these really strong, notable, historic people up there, and then juxtaposing it to Maude, who was this very strong, outspoken, woman, and which for the 70s wasn't typical, right?
Yeah.
Back in the 70s we had Mary Tyler Moore was more or That Girl, that show That Girl with what's her name? I can't remember her name, but that it was that model of woman was running shows. So yeah, I love it. It's cool. Right on, Maude. What did you guys think about it when you listened to it?
I was gonna say it brought me, the minute I heard it, I was like, this reminds me of Good Times, and then I see Norman Lear's name on there, and I'm like, oh, well, Norman Lear, first of all, is a legend. I think he just passed away not that long ago, actually.
Yeah, maybe a couple years or a year or so.
Couple years or so, yeah. I remember watching reruns of Maude back in the day and having it be very it's a strong female character, and very much at that time when there was a lot of not protest, but just she stood up for herself, and that's what the song kind of gives off the vibe of the whole time, is just this empowerment. And yeah, it's great. It brought back a lot of memories of I saw these shows in reruns, so that's what I remember from it, and the fact that this cast were all babies at the time. And B. Arthur always kind of looked like B. Arthur. Yeah. She was it's so funny because she's the one on Golden Girls that they didn't really have to do a whole lot to, to look older. But yeah, no, it's a great pick, man. It definitely is. It's an era for sure.
And just so I don't just have to say this for every single of Diallo's picks, I've never seen any show that all 4 of Diallo's picks. I've never seen any of them, but I've heard of all of them. I know them all. And then later on, when another one of Diallo's picks, I'll be like, oh, I've heard about that show so much, but I've never seen hide nor hair of it. Maude, I didn't watch a lot of All in the Family back in the day. I didn't watch a lot of Good Times either. I'm also the youngest of us three. For me, B. Arthur is always Golden Girls to me. But I loved this theme song. I loved it because it could have been, sarcastic. It could have been like done in more of a sarcastic way, but there's more of a reverence to Maude. I know it's supposed to be juxtaposed, like there's a Joan of Arc and all these great women, but like my takeaway from the song is that Maude is just as great. She just doesn't have the platform that like a great war to fight like Joan of Arc would have or something like that. But she's just as powerful and just as amazing as these other women. It's just she's sort of out of time. And that was my takeaway, having not really seen the show, but I really sort of understood what they were trying to say from the opening theme song. And I think that's the best compliment you can give a theme song, is that you can understand the tone of the show just by that theme song and without actually, watching it. Now, let me know if I'm wrong about any of that, but that was my takeaway of the theme of the show.
That was a great read.
Oh,
I didn't really see that. I like that she's out of time. I really like that because the song goes through kind of like a range of time. So that's a really good read.
Nice. Yeah, and I would actually like to, I would really actually like to go back and watch this one. So I've been watching some shows at night that are older, and I don't want to mention just yet because it's going to be a point to Diallo. But I wouldn't mind turning this one on. I wouldn't mind seeing Adrienne Barbeau, of course, right?
You never mind seeing Adrienne Barbeau.
Not at all. Even if it's in a shitty movie, like Somebody's Watching Me.
That's right. If only it had that Rockwell song in it.
She was in Swamp Thing, right?
Yes, Swamp Thing. Yeah,
she sure was.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, and of course the new MVD Blu-ray has the restored nude scene in it. So go grab that.
I did not know that existed.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
Oh, it sure does. It went from a PG to an R just like that.
In the blink of an eye.
It made my head spin.
All right, Diallo, what is your number 2, buddy?
My number 2 song is from BJ and the Bear, and it's called BJ and the Bear.
Shocker.
Hey there, where you going? Not exactly knowing. Who says you have to call just one place? Oh, he's going everywhere. DJ McKay and his best friend Bear. He just keeps on moving, ladies keep improving. Every day is better than the best.
New dreams and better scenes. And best of all, I don't pay property tax.
So BJ and the Bear, it was on in the late 70s, early 80s. It starred Greg Evigan. We know him from Everything Cool, right?
My Two Dads, Deep Star 6.
Oh, that's who that was?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit. Guys and gals, the video that we watch, it's kind of shitty on YouTube. I could not tell, but I was like, that kind of looks like the dude from
But
My
he's
Two Dads.
super young. He's like super young here, though.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
He had a singing career as well.
Yeah, it was pre like mustache and stuff too, I think, right? So,
Yeah, he had that full on beard,
Yeah.
and apparently his daughter is kind of a big deal now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he had a big singing career as well. So he was kind of a pop star for a minute.
Yeah, so this was a show he was a truck driver, and he had a pet chimpanzee named Bear, and that was his companion. And this might be on an episode of TV Obscura where we talk about all of these actually might end up being at
seriously.
a certain point, because I've been wanting to do my number 1 show on for TV Obscura for a while. But yeah, so it started Claude Adkins. He played Sheriff Lobo, who actually ended up having a spin-off show called Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo, which I remember. This song was actually written by Glenn A. Larson, who I did not know wrote a ton of theme songs. I had no idea, because he was in a singing group, and Glenn A. Larson created basically the core of my childhood. And without him putting sci-fi on TV, there would have probably been no sci-fi. So like Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers, I believe Knight Rider, the list, Bionic Man, which was like he didn't create it. Well, no, he did. I think he wrote for it. But like, yeah, there was almost everything that I worshipped, he created. So yeah, it's just a really honky tonk, like I'm just trucking down country
It's so
highway.
much fun. The theme song is so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Like it you know, I love Smokey and the Bandit, and there's a great Chris Christopherson movie called Convoy. I love like trucker movies and just, you know, country bumpkin kind of people. And Greg Evigan, he's young. Gosh, he's got to be in his 20s in this. He looks like a baby, but I watched the hell out of this show back in the day. I don't remember a single episode.
I don't remember one episode.
But the theme song gets stuck in your head. The minute I heard it, I was like, oh, yep, takes me back. I love it.
Yeah, so this was one of those shows that all throughout my life, people have referenced. I've heard about it. I feel like, you know, either
Why? 'Cause
Tarantino
you're
or
BJ?
Kevin Smith would name drop it or something, right? People would talk about it. But it never came across my radar. And we've talked about this a million times before. It's like, you know, if your parents kind of don't watch something when you're so young, you know, you kind of don't really see it. But this is one of those things where I'd heard about it so much. So when Diallo, I saw it on the list, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I've heard this show so many times, you know, mentioned. Let me, like, you know, actually now I'm going to get to see what the theme song's all about. And first off, I was like, is he driving Optimus Prime? Is that Optimus Prime right there?
Yes.
And then my second thought is that the dad from My Two Dads and from Deep Star 6? I was like, okay. And so I was a big Smokey and the Bandit fan back in the day. So I kind of thought that BJ and the Bear, I didn't know the bear was a monkey. I actually kind of either thought it was like either a cop or something, or it was an actual bear, like, you know, something like that. I didn't know it was going to be a monkey, like Any Which Way But Loose type of scenario. But I was like, this is great.
That's another good one, right?
Yeah,
there.
no, that's another good movie too. But I again never seen it, but I thought the theme song was an absolute delight.
Yeah. What about you, Zach? Did you already?
Oh no, I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I think this was another one too that I probably watched a lot as a kid. It was on like at an early time, right? I remember it being on.
I mean, when I was a kid when it was on, but I don't remember like what channel station it was on. I don't remember anything. I don't know. Remember the network's probably NBC. I don't know, but
I remember seeing it on
Friday nights, maybe. I don't know. Really good.
Okay, I remember seeing reruns on like probably WGN back in the day, you know. So, but yeah, I love it's so it's a happy-go-lucky song. And did you choose it because it's such a happy-go-lucky song?
Yeah, you know, I was feeling that upbeat vibe. Yeah, you know, it's bopping. There's songs that I like. There's a ton of different songs I love, but I don't know, those songs put me like in a good mood. The first two, and my number one definitely puts me in a great mood. So
yeah, there's an overarching theme to Diallo's picks.
There is, and there's also a theme to Zach's picks. It's totally.
Yeah. I was watching Zach's, and I was like, Zach.
Yeah, oh yeah, this is a Zach pick, of course. Yeah,
Zach.
yeah.
And then there's one outlier where you're like, oh well, that's a shock.
All right, Diallo will take us into your number one.
My number one is Angie from the show Angie, and it is a song called Different Worlds.
Let the time go, let the love grow, let the rain shower, let the rose flower. Love it seeks, love it finds, love it conquers, love it binds. Come to each other from different worlds, drawn to each other by the love inside of us.
So Angie is a show from the very, very late 70s that might have went into the early 80s. I feel like I'm the only person that ever watched it, even when it was on. It started.
I feel like I saw the trailer or I've seen something
like commercials or something.
A commercial for it. Yeah.
Robert Hayes was very proud of a young Diallo for watching this one.
Yeah. It was like Donna Pescow, who I absolutely love. She ended up being on Out of This World. And
that fun fact, that's one of Femme French's favorite TV theme songs from her childhood.
Oh, Out of This
She
World?
actually started singing it today.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. It had Doris Roberts and Deborah Lee Scott. This was like, I was doing my research about this, and this was actually really interesting. And this is where the 6 degrees of separation part comes in. And I kind of clued me in onto why, like, a lot of the, like, not just these shows, but just like across the board for theme songs, they were actually written by people that wrote music.
Actual musicians.
Yeah, they didn't just like appear, right? So this theme song was written and composed by Norman Gimbel and Charles Fox, who also wrote and composed "Killing Me Softly" with his song. Killing Me Softly. So
the original version, not the Fugees.
Yeah, the original version. So and they also wrote other theme songs like the Bugaloos, the Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, the Paper Chase, and Wonder Woman.
Oh,
the Paper Chase. Oh, the Paper.
Yeah, the Paper Chase.
And Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
Wonder Woman. Now that is a show that I watched religiously.
That is a show that I definitely watched.
Paper Chase had John Houseman on it, I believe.
Yeah. I didn't. It's funny because like when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that show. It was like a legal kind of. It was like a.
It was. It's based. It's from a movie. I believe.
Yeah.
I believe the movie was Paper Chase, and then this was the spin-off series. Yeah.
So Norman Gimbel wrote "The Girl from Ipanema."
Oh.
And Charles Fox composed music for tons of shows. So it's like The Love Boat, some random show called Love American Style. We might hear about that later. ABC's Wide World of Sports, the original Monday Night Football theme. He also wrote Together Through the Years for the Hogan family.
Oh wow! I used to watch the Hogan Family. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and that was one of the songs I was
song.
listening to, in the last week listening, and I'm singing along. And great song that was sung by Roberta Flack, who also sung the original version of "Killing Me Softly," right?
She sang the Hogan Family one?
Yeah, she sang the Hogan Family one. So when I was listening to that, I was like, oh, that's Roberta Flack. I remember that, but I wasn't aware of that when I was younger. But so here's the kind of the little connection is that she sang "Where Is the Love" and "The Closer I Get to You" with Donny Hathaway, who was the one who sang "And Then There's Maude." So I thought that was a little cool, like,
that's cool.
6 degrees of separation thing going on.
Yeah.
That was nothing about nothing. I just thought that was cool.
No, I love that shit. I think that shit's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, the song itself was sung by the great Maureen McGovern, who, like, if you've seen Superman, you have heard the movie version where Lois Lane reads basically "Can You Read My Mind," the love theme from Superman. So there was an actual radio version that Maureen McGovern sang. She also sang "The Morning After" from the Poseidon Adventure. If you've ever seen the Poseidon Adventure,
Great song.
So and that's funny because I was thinking about that and I was like, oh yeah, they've been doing like songs to like big Hollywood epic disaster movies long before Titanic.
Oh yeah. Every one of them has some sort of like epic song at the end. Towering Inferno.
Yeah, she sang one. She sang the song for Towering Inferno,
whatever the hell that one was.
Yeah.
Yes,
the one in Hawaii.
So "We May Never Love This, Love Like This Again" was from the Towering Inferno that Maureen McGovern sang as well. So
love that movie.
Yeah, so she sung "Different Worlds." It actually peaked. It was actually charted on the Billboard 100. It was her only #1 song, and this I remember hearing it on the radio all the time, and I remember the first time I can remember seeing the show, I was in like a Gymco. I don't know if you remember or heard of those.
Gemco was replaced. Target replaced Gemco in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Or at least in Cupertino.
Yeah. There's one in like Daly City where I was, and it became, I think it might be a Target now, but I remember like we were like in the TV section, and I were walking past, and I saw the opening, and I heard the music, and I was like transfixed. I was just like, and I became like obsessed with this song, and I was like maybe like 7 or 8, and my parents were like, what is wrong with this kid? Listen, it's like I just loved it. I love that song so much, and I love the part where she hits these high notes at the end, and I just like it. Just like I don't know, just like takes me away. But then there's like a radio version of that song, which actually I do have in my workout playlist actually. So
Is it your cool down song?
It definitely is not my cool down song. It's just in there when I'm running. It'll come up between whatever,
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what about you guys?
Well, that link you sent, I think it had both the TV show theme song, the outro, and then it actually had the full radio version. So that was kind of nice to hear that whole thing. I liked it. I was getting. Guys and gals, I think you all know by now, I'm not the most musically gifted of the three of us. And I don't know, I've never really had to talk about music before, so I kind of don't know sometimes what to say. But what I was getting were Mary Tyler Moore vibes from it, music-wise, but like more disco-ish a little bit, something?
Absolutely disco.
Okay. So I'm not
it was
totally...
in the disco era. Definitely.
Yeah. So, but I was still getting those Mary Tyler Moore sort of like upbeat kind of vibes and everything. And, especially since now that's kind of like sort of in my nighttime before bed rotation is Mary Tyler Moore. And I was shook, I must say, when Diallo submitted his list and the Mary Tyler Moore theme song was not on there, because he's mentioned millions of times off air and probably some on air how much that's like his favorite theme song of all time, and I just I almost threw up when I saw it was not on the list. But this was giving me those vibes, Diallo. Like I was getting the vibes of that theme song from this one, so I think those kind of like have a nice little, they kind of go well together. I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean,
but I've never seen the show, so I don't really have anything else to add to it. But my note is here. I go, it's a fun little ditty.
I don't know. I feel like it was just like your typical 80s or 70s, 80s sitcom. Like I don't know. I was watching all these theme songs and just like, dude, like the pitches for these shows were like, oh, it's a show about a family. Okay. That was pretty much it for half of them,
Yeah.
There's like the dynamic was a little bit different, and that was about it. But
family with a live-in maid. There we go. All right, run with it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's basically what it was. It worked for a while.
When I watched this, I immediately was like, oh, Donna Pescow, she was not too long before this. She was in Saturday Night Fever and being like the one that Tony just kind of blows off, and practically gets sexually assaulted. I think she does get sexually assaulted. Anyways, and Robert Hayes, I'm like, besides Airplane and what was it, Creep Show? Those are the only two times. Wasn't he in Creep Show? No, that was Ted Danson.
Yeah.
Sorry. Never mind. Scratch that.
Robert Hayes is poor man's Ted Danson.
He really is, if you think about it. And, he's done a handful of B movies as well, but it's like really Airplane is his jam.
He was TV Starman, I think.
He was
Yep.
Starman.
Yep.
That's right.
TV Starman.
Yeah. So I'm curious to watch the show. I never watched the show, and now I want to watch it. And I like the title of it. Angie's a very sweet name.
By the way, real quick, Diallo, the TV show Starman, I did watch that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, as a kid, I liked that movie for some reason as a kid. Like I watched it, we talked about it, in the Carpenter Factor, but like I weirdly watched that movie a lot as a kid, and I watched the show.
It was a hit movie, though.
I think so, but I mean,
It
it's
wasn't-
not like a kid movie,
Yeah.
It was a hit movie, but I'm surprised that they made a show out of it. Apparently, Columbia TriStar or Sony put out a box set of like selected movies on Blu-ray or 4K, And one of the extras on the Starman disc is the entire series of Starman, but you can't get it anywhere else.
Oh, wow. That's
So
cool.
you can get it in the box set, but you can't get it as an individual disc.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah.
One of the other reasons why I like this song is because I guess I can hard launch this now that I am dating someone and her name is Angie, and it's like I would have never imagined when I was 8 that one of my all-time favorite theme songs would end up being my boo. So
And does she like? And does your boo like this song?
she thinks that she thought it was weird that she was.
You're like, can you change your name to Donna Pascal?
Yeah. She's like, well, that's cute. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I love it. I don't know why I love it. I just do. It's always
It's cool.
been fun
I think
to
it's
me.
cool. Hey, it's the
great.
universe, man.
Hey, you never have to justify why you love something on
Yeah.
podcasting after dark around
Yeah.
us, you know? Yeah, but I'm glad that I finally got to see it because you've talked about Angie so much. So I'm glad. I'm sure that the show proper will come to TV Obscura, you know, at some point, and I look forward to diving into it. But the
Same.
intro, the theme song is a lot of fun.
Agreed.
All right, what is your honorable mention? What didn't quite crack the top 3?
It didn't quite crack my top 3, but
I know. Asterisk.
in another
I know.
universe, it would have been
I
in my
know.
top 3.
Remember, this is the caveat. This is just simply 3 songs plus an extra.
Yeah.
My honorable mention is from a show called Love American Style, and the name of the song is Love American Style.
American style, the red, white, and blue. Love American style, that's me and you. And on a star-spangled night, my love, you can rest your head on my shoulder, while by the dawn's early light, my love, I will defend your right to try. Love American style, that's me and you.
Yeah, so Love American Style was like this anthology show from like the 60s and up to like the mid 70s. And it was like about romance, comedy and stuff. Little caveat is Happy Days actually debuted on this show, which is actually
Oh,
kind of cool.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it was kind of used as a launching pad for things.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. It just like it was its own thing, but I think they just like I think Happy Days was written as a pilot, and then it ended up having a version of it on that show for that episode. And
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay.
And I think it kind of helped. I don't know. I think Happy Days ended up like going forward after George Lucas saw that, and then he saw that Love American Style or something, and then hired Ron Howard for his movie, whatever that movie is,
American Graffiti.
American Graffiti, and then that helped Happy Days actually go forward.
Okay.
I think
okay.
that's how the story goes. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, yeah, it was a part of a whole lineup for ABC. Other shows at that time, The Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, Room 222, which is another theme song that almost made the cut, and The Odd Couple, which is another one. I love The Odd Couple show. So this song is by Charles Fox that wrote Different World and Killing Me Softly. So it's the same writer
Awesome.
from the other two, which again, I had no idea like there's a whole flow of songs and people making the songs. The first season was sung by the Cowsills, who do that song, Hair, give me that hair, long, beautiful hair.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then the second season was sung by a group called the Ron Hicklin Singers, who were actually the voices for the Partridge Family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like that, they were the ones that actually did the singing
Yeah.
for the Partridge Family. Okay.
Yeah.
Come on, get happy.
Yeah. So that's, but it's basically the same song. But like the Cowsills, that original song is like a longer, like, you know, like has a couple verses in it, and the second season is a much shorter one. And the one with all the verses was the one that I kind of keyed into. It was like much longer after the show was, because I didn't really watch it when it was on at all. It was not in my range at all when I was a kid, but I do remember like it coming on sometimes, and I noted the music, but it wasn't until I was like maybe in my 20s. I remember I was at my grandparents, and it was like on a Saturday late afternoon, and it was on, and then I sat down and I was like, oh, I remember the show from back in the day, and listening to the theme song, and I was like, I really dug it when I really got into it. So that's my honorable mention. And
Was there like anyone like teeing up the episodes, or like is there any kind of cross thread through the episodes of like one person, or are they completely just standalone short stories essentially?
So it's like super vague for me, but I think that they were mostly standalone. But I do think that there was like a thread of like people doing bumpers or announcing them that were like connecting stuff. I'm not really sure. I do know there were a ton of like noteworthy actors. I think like Harrison Ford was it. I mean, just like who like name your actor. They were on this show. So it was sort of like, you know, like the Love Boat had like a ton of guest stars it was sort of like that, but it was like completely all this stuff was separate, and it wasn't like a one set or one theme. It was just like, and I mean, it was an anthology, like Black Mirror,
and it was
but, like, romance.
one story per episode, or did they do like multiple stories per episode?
I think it was one story per episode, but I you know, there's a couple times I do think I might have remember seeing like two or three, like at least two in an episode, but
okay.
It wasn't like regular viewing for me. Even like it was just more like I used to kind of see the theme song come on, and like I love watching it too, because it's like all these fireworks and stuff going on, and then I watched a little bit of the episode and I was out. So yeah.
Zach, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I never watched the show, but I'm super familiar with the musical Hair, so that tracks with that style of like that, and you like that kind of get up and dance, and you know, feel your whole body. This is Broadway, baby. It's cheesy, but it's fun. Like, I love it. It's very much a throwback to a totally different era. And I remember the name of the show. I remember the opening to the show, and that's it.
Yeah, I have no recollection whatsoever. I think the only time I've ever heard of it is maybe from you guys at some point, you know, on here, or just, you know, randomly talking. No recollection of this whatsoever. Not my favorite of the four theme song, or the, you know, Diallo brought to the table. But not bad by any means. Just not really kind of my cup of tea. But I liked the fireworks though. I thought that they were fun to watch. And then, you know, showing everyone, I think the clip you sent, Diallo, we saw like, you know, Dr. Smith from Lost in Space and stuff in it. So I was like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, the theme didn't quite grab me the way other ones did. Mm-hmm. But that's not like, you know, a bad thing. That's just my takeaway.
No, you're fine.
If it was Love Canadian style.
Bye, guys.
But, you know, the fun fact, Corey loves the version Love Canadian style even more.
Love Canadian style. Hey, hey.
Yeah. It's basically they dump slime on each other's heads and say, I don't know.
Tomorrow, I love you tomorrow.
Oh man, well, Diallo, these are great picks, buddy. And
great picks.
Like I said, guys and gals, you'll hear parts of these songs during this episode, and I think you'll see a theme for each person, and or at least you'll see what their auditory aesthetics are, and what we all like and everything. But all of these are awesome, and honestly, it was nice actually putting like some faces to these shows that I'd heard about my entire life, like BJ and the Bear, but never having actually seen it. So
BJ McKay, this is my best friend Bear.
The beautiful thing about
good.
all this is, you know, all these songs mean something to us. So it's basically like, you know, that you're getting inside. Well, that every TV Obscura episode is like that. You're getting a little insight into who we are as a person. So there you go.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention it when you were talking about BJ and the Bear. My other takeaway from that song is I feel like that song is the template for all the sitcom parody songs that, like, you'll see on SNL or something, where they basically they parody, like, they make up their own lyrics and everything, but it feels like it's to the tune of that BJ and the Bear kind of. I don't know. I was like, I feel like this is the quintessential theme song that everyone sort of morphs to turn into a parody theme song. And it's maybe because all those writers obviously grew up with BJ and the Bear, but that was kind of like this little thing that I noticed. I was like, this song sounds familiar even though I don't know it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Hello, and welcome to BAMPIRE. BAMPIRE is a wildly ambitious, independent horror comedy film.
It is fun, sexy, thrilling, and unpredictable from start to finish.
On the surface, Vampire is a slasher flick set in the 90s.
References Bambi, but it's not just, Bambi, but horror. It's its own thing, and it has a real story to tell.
Vampire is a story that I wrote to encapsulate my own experience growing up in the wilds of Alaska, seeing humankind interact with nature.
So to me, Vampire is just like a fantastic horror comedy, just like a classic kind of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, early Scream era.
It's also a gore fest that will make you wonder if we took the actors back there and really mauled them like that.
It is going to be so wildly entertaining.
It's visceral, it's energetic, it's emotional, it's popcorn, it's candy. It feels like watching a movie. It's a movie.
And now, back to the show. All right, Zach. Well, buddy, take us into your list. What is your number 3?
Number 3. Okay, so my first pick, or my last pick, I guess, my third pick of the 3 is from a sitcom from the late 80s. It's a spin-off, and I'll get to the name of the song. Well, the show is called Just the 10 of Us, and the song is Doing It the Best I Can by Bill Medley.
There's a race and I know I can win it, 'cause I'm learning the rules of the game. If I can stay on the ball, take it minute by minute, I just might make the Hall of Fame. What can I say? I'm doing it the best I can. Leaning on nobody but me. Oh, seeing it from where I stand. Nothing comes easy. Oh, I'm always bringing home second places at the end of every one of my daisies. A house with all of the bases that keeps me doing it the best I can. Yeah, I'm doing it the best I can. I'll keep on doing it the best I can.
Doing it the best I can. Wow. So, before I get to Bill Medley and Doing It the Best I Can, that's who sings the song, by the way, Just the 10 of Us is a spin-off of Growing Pains. And it was on Growing Pains, there was a PE coach of a Catholic family, and he had 8 kids. 8 kids. Oh my God. And the character was so popular from Growing Pains, they gave him his own show. And it lasted for 47 episodes over the course of 3 seasons. And I mean, honestly, I watched the show because I had a huge crush on Jamie Luner. And of course, Heather Langenkamp is in the show too. And, if we love horror, so she's from Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like, what more can you say? But something always stayed with me with this show. Like I said, it lasted for 3 seasons from 88 to 90. And it was the theme song. by Bill Medley. So Bill Medley is one half of the Righteous Brothers. The Righteous Brothers, of course, have that song, You Lost That Love and Feeling, and Unchained Melody, and, of course, I've Had the Time of My Life from Dirty Dancing. He sang that song as well. So he's got this really kind of bassy, baritone, soulful voice, and there's like a lot of earnestness in his voice, Oh, yeah. So I was covering a match with Paul, I believe from 1988, and I found on TV, on Territory Marks, and I found like fun facts from the time the match came out, and just the 10 of us premiered at the same time, and I pulled the theme song and threw it on the episode, and I kind of goofed on it for a minute. I'm like, oh, it's so cheesy, and I'm like, wait a minute, I like cheesy. Wait a minute, I like earnest. Wait a minute, I like that kind of, oh yeah. And it just stayed with me, and I realized, yeah, this actually is one of my all-time favorite theme songs. So doing it the best I can. And the funny thing is, I'm always saying that. Just do the best you can. Just do the best you can to my son, Bodie. So here we are, full circle, doing it the best I can. Bill Medley, your guys' thoughts?
I absolutely watched this back in the day, and again, this was another one of those Kate and Allie moments that we're having, where I was like, oh my god, I forgot about this show. And as I was watching that intro, I was like, oh my god, I loved this song. And I can remember Zach, like just us hanging out, you'll just say it randomly, and I'm like, that's what it's from. Holy shit. And then by the end of it, I was singing it too, doing it the best I can. It's so good. This one slaps for sure. But I totally forgot Heather Langenkamp was in that show. I was like, oh my god, I forgot about Jamie Luner. I was like, holy shit, I remember her back in the day. I mean, I know she's still working and everything, but like, I feel like I saw her more back in the day and everything. And I was like, oh my god, I used to love this show. I forgot, or maybe I never knew, or maybe I knew at one point and forgot about it, but I didn't realize it was a Growing Pains spinoff, and I watched Growing Pains like a motherfucker back in the day as well. Yep. Zach, what was this? 88? Is that when this came out?
This was 88. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 10. So this is now when I'm starting to actually pay attention, to TV shows and stuff like that. And like I said, I was also watching Growing Pains and everything. So yeah, this was an absolute banger. I loved this show. I'm kind of surprised it was only 3 seasons. I felt like it was more of my childhood was this show, but yeah.
The side note to that is USA picked it up and reran it all the time. So you probably just saw it in reruns as well.
No, I didn't, because I didn't have cable back then. But yeah, no, but I mean, I don't know. I do kind of look back and I think I'm like, yeah, maybe 3 seasons does sound about right. But yeah, this show was awesome. I loved this show. Forgot that the dad's kind of goofy looking, like he's kind of doopy looking. I'm like, man, you cranked out a lot of kids. And you're kind of like a little pudge and a little just doughy,
The fact that he had 8 kids and he struck gold because it's in Eureka, California. That's where it takes place. Eureka. Yeah, very.
So 1988 did his wife work, or was he just the gym coach or whatever?
Yeah, no, the wife was at home. She had I think she had a baby. Like they had a baby on the show.
Yeah, they had a baby
so,
too.
1988 television tells you that you can support 7 or 8 kids or whatever, 6 kids and a house on a gym teacher's salary. It's like, my God, it's just like how Married with Children, Al can have that house on a shoe salesman's salary. It's crazy.
As the show progressed, it became more about the daughters, obviously, because they're like, they're really beautiful. But they're really pumping out the fact that he was like this active, overweight gym teacher. He's such a jovial guy. And I mean, the opener says it all. He's like dancing in there, and it's just like everybody's having a great time. And that's why I love the 80s so much, because it's so absurd, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Diallo, what are your thoughts on doing it the best I can?
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely in my mix for being on my list. I absolutely love the song. I remember watching the debut episode. I used to watch, whatever the show is that with Alan Thicke, whatever we were
Growing-
talking about.
Growing Pains?
Yeah, Growing Pains. I remember him being on there, and then them having the new show, and then it was like I was in high school, like late high school by this time, and so the casting was perfect for me. Because between Jamie Luner and Brooke Thice, I think her name was, like the two older sisters, it was like they struck gold. Or the twin, I think they were twins actually. They might have been twins.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And isn't Jamie Luner from like Melrose
Yeah,
Place?
she was on
or-
Melrose
Yeah.
Place later. Yeah, and so that was it was just like and then and so I love that. Actually, Heidi Ziegler, she was like the one of the younger daughters. I think she was on. There's the show called Rags to Riches, which is something to bring up for TV Obscura actually.
Pull that up.
Yeah, Gina, what's her name from Martin was on it. It was like a dancing musical kind of. It was like Annie meets modern times. They used to sing old songs and stuff.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I used to watch that.
You're
show. I used to love
triggering
that.
memories now.
Yeah, I used to
We're all
love that
getting
show.
triggered, guys. in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, but I loved just and that song is like absolute gold.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that was a good one, buddy. Great pick on that one.
Thank you. I'm going to move right into number 222. We brought up this show before, and I sang my praises about it earlier, so I'll try to keep it short. But the TV show is The Insiders from 1985, and the song is, for the intro, is Just a Job to Do by Genesis.
It's no use saying that it's alright. It's alright. But where were you after midnight? And down you go. It's just a job I do. But the harder you run, the harder you fall. I'm coming hard on you.
So I actually just played this song the other day because it's off the Genesis album with the yellow shapes. It's self-titled. It's got That's All. That's All. And Mama and Down by the Sea. Just one banger after another. It's got a huge, like you listen to that album and you're like, this is like a Miami Vice soundtrack is what it is. Well, The Insiders was kind of a ABC's answer to Miami Vice in a way. It starred Nicholas Campbell and Stoney Jackson. Stoney Jackson, I think most people will remember from Streets of Fire, and where they're like, oh yeah, he sings I Can Dream About You. No, he lip syncs I Can Dream About You.
No.
That was actually a white dude, shockingly. But no, Stoney is awesome, and the show is about a investigative reporter and his like ex-con buddy, that they kind of get into adventures together. It only lasted for 13 episodes, which is a total shame. We talked about it. It's almost impossible to find anything other than the pilot episode.
And is that because of this song?
I believe so. I mean, this is the only song in my selections that is an actual song from an actual band. Genesis, of course, had one hit after another, but the fact that they pulled this song for the show is perfect. The song fits, the bang bang bang.
Yeah,
so badass. To me, it's like this song mixed in with that opening credits make this show even better than maybe the show is, right? Because we talked about it, it's very formulaic, but the intro is just killer. And it's a shame that we can't figure out the rights to stuff like this, because I would love to see all 13 episodes out there. The show was great. Stoney Jackson loved working on it. He said it was like one of the biggest, fun projects he's ever done, and at the time. And the rest is history. So just a job to do. Diallo, what are your thoughts on this song for the Insiders?
I heard it the other day because I was over at your place and you played it.
You sure did.
And I like it because it's Genesis. And we went over the show already on this show. I think it's cool. It's very much a Zach. It's just a Zach song.
It's my workout song.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like I remember the show, but it's like one of those ones that's like it's like super vague for me as well. So it doesn't really sit in my theme song repertoire as I feel like it should. But I don't know, it's Phil Collins. As soon as Phil Collins comes on, you're like, we're here. This is
right.
This is iconic. We've arrived. So I dug it.
Yeah, it's different. There's not a lot of theme songs that are actually a song.
Yeah.
That from something before. So it's an interesting choice that they chose to use this song for the actual theme song of the show.
And thus doomed future DVD and Blu-ray sales.
Yeah, but Corey, what are your thoughts about the Insiders theme song?
My entire life, I am a Genesis, Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, Mark. I've always loved Genesis as a kid, growing up in the 80s. Huge fan. Always loved Phil Collins, always loved Peter Gabriel. And I didn't know, I think, Zach, you actually told me on the Werewolf episode of TV Obscura that Mike and Mechanics are also from Genesis, right?
Yes,
guitarist,
it's the guitarist, from Genesis.
Yeah. So, and I love Mike and the Mechanics too. So I'm like, oh my God, I never realized that. Like, I knew Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel came from Genesis, but I didn't know Mike and the Mechanics did as well. I will always be a mark for Genesis. So and this has already been a great song. I've always loved this song on its own. So and then just adding the visuals of an awesome show on top of it, and you got an absolute banger right there. So there's no questions about it at all.
No questions, just like you said, doomed, probably another nail in the coffin of the show. And I will also point out Tony Banks, who I believe is the keyboardist for Genesis, went on to a very prolific music scoring career too. He scored Quicksilver, the movie Quicksilver with Kevin Bacon, the bike messenger movie, which I love. So, those guys they knew what they were doing. They branched out. But that it's got a great, just that drum beat, so cool. Anyways, my number 111 is from a very popular action crime drama TV series that aired on ABC from September 18th, 1983 to May 5th, 1986. The show is Hardcastle and McCormick. The theme song is Drive. So, interesting thing about this theme song. I'll get to it in just a moment. Really quickly, Hardcastle and McCormick starred Brian Keith as Judge Milton Hardcastle. Brian Keith, Family Affair. What else? He was in. The Parent Trap. Also, he was in a movie called Hooper, the Burt Reynolds stuntman movie, which is with Jan Michael Vincent. So great.
Not to be confused with Hooperman.
Not to be confused with Hooperman.
Never confused.
Never. Yeah, the guy was fantastic. He did, Brian Keith is was a beast of a guy. He was a big dude, you know. He played Judge Milton Hardcastle, and he's paired up with ex-con race car driver Mark Skid McCormick, played by Daniel Hugh Kelly, who I think most people will recognize. From sorry, I'm just gonna pull up a name. From this, you know, he's been in a lot of other things, but I think this is probably his most well-known role, Hardcastle and McCormick. And this show, and we haven't done it yet, and this will definitely be a TV Obscura topic down the road. This show features a car. We have to do TV shows with like badass cars, because this show features a really badass, like Spider, I think is the name of the car.
Is that the red one that's in the intro? The theme?
Yes,
okay.
It is. And so this show was
the car that they clearly broke when they did a jump with it.
Yeah, you know, this show is a formulaic action show for its time, but man, it's the theme song that did it for me, and it really was. Like, if you take the theme song out, I don't think I would like this show as much as I did. The theme song was composed by Mike Post and Stephen Geyer, but it was sung by David Morgan. And if anyone knows who David Morgan is, he actually is from the band ELO, Electric Light Orchestra.
Oh, okay.
He was I believe the bass and guitars and vocals he wasn't the lead vocalist, obviously, for ELO, but he was one of the vocalists for ELO. And he was actually in a bunch of bands. One band is called Balls, which I think is funny. Balls. But anyways, he sang the theme song, Drive! And
you said Mike Post worked on it as well. He's a huge name in theme songs.
He really is. Yeah, Mike Post, of course, Law and Order, The White Shadow,
NYPD Blue, right?
NYPD Blue, Magnum PI, LA Law, The Rockford Files, Quantum Leap, Hill Street Blues, Renegade. I love that show. Anyways, the reason I bring up. Yeah, so the car, really quickly, is called the Coyote X. It's a custom mold based on the McLaren M6 GT, for all you car nerds out there. And the interesting thing about this theme song, Drive, was it aired for the first 12 episodes of season 2. It aired in season 1, and then it aired for the first 12 episodes of season 2. But then it was changed. The theme song was changed to Back to Back, composed again by Post and Geyer, but sung by Joe Scarberry of the Greatest American Hero fame.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And interesting thing, there was such a backlash from the public that the song was reinstated soon after the new song came out.
Nice.
So there you go. So that's my number one pick, Drive by Hardcastle and McCormick. I have loved this song since the moment I heard it. Even when I wasn't watching the show, it was like, that's all I had to put on. There's an extended version on YouTube, like a 3.5 minute version. It's a banger of a song.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts, guys. Corey, what's your thought on Drive by from Hardcastle and McCormick?
Oh man, my note here is, this is totally a Zach song. Like, right out of the gate, I was like, this is definitely a Zach song. Another show that I had heard about as a kid, but it never crossed, my path. So I'm just excited to actually, see again the faces with the names. All of these shows that we talk about tonight, I've heard of all of them, even if I've never seen them. So that was another fun aspect of it. But the song itself was awesome. I loved this song. Probably, I probably liked the of these that you have, the doing it the best I can. It might be my favorite of all of them. But this one was good. This one was damn good.
Diallo?
Yeah, so it's funny because this was one of those shows where I remember watching it a little bit, but it really was, I always just remember the opening. right? And I just remember that drive, and then that was pretty much the only part I know about the song. Like whenever anybody would, if we're walking around, someone's like, sing this theme song, I would just go drive. And then I would kind of hum the rest of it a little bit, but
right,
yeah, it definitely like I said, like I don't know, it's the idea of the show was kind of cool, very 80s, like I don't know, setup, but yeah, I know I dug it, I dig it. I love all theme songs, man. I just I love
and the cool part of this show as well was, and this may come up with another show. The toy company ERTL put out like Magnum PI, Chips, Dukes of Hazzard cars, but they also put out a Hardcastle and McCormick car with a figure. It goes on eBay for well over $400 now, which is wild. I always wanted it. I always found out about these things after the fact, but I thought it was so cool that they made a car and a figure based on this kind of not obscure show, but it wasn't Magnum PI.
It was a pretty popular show, but it wasn't it also wasn't like a kid's show either. That's the interesting part, that they would have a figure for it. Yeah.
It was a little edgy with having an ex-con as one of the lead characters.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of driving on the show?
There was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Daniel Hugh Kelly, I was just looking up. He actually was in Cujo. That was his first.
Yeah. He was in Cujo, because there's another guy who looks similar to him, but he has a mustache that I always get confused. That guy was in what's that movie we talked about, Corey, we guest starred on a podcast, or The Exterminators, or not Exterminators, but Eliminators?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dude with the mustache in The Eliminators looks like a little bit like Daniel Hugh Kelly. But anyways, yeah, you're right. He was in Cujo with Dee Wallace and a young, what's his face?
Danny Pintaro.
Danny Pintaro, yeah. Yeah, so Hardcastle and McCormick. I'm sure we'll bring that show up on TV Obscura.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited for that one, and the theme song is awesome. What about your honorable mention?
My honorable mention is from a 1989 very short-lived TV series, another one that only lasted 18 episodes. The TV show is called Hardball. The theme song is Roll Over It, performed by Eddie Money.
Now, this is a perfect show for us to bring to TV Obscura one of these days.
Yeah, we definitely will. So I had the pleasure of interviewing Richard Tyson a while back, and he loved...
I had the pleasure of almost getting kicked out of JP's, a bar in Santa Monica, by Richard Tyson back in the day.
Yeah.
Corey had the pleasure of... That was an epic Sunday. Every time I go past that place, I'm always just like, oh man, roll tide.
Yeah, so I'll roll it back to 1989. Richard Tyson, most people will know him from the 80s movie 3 O'Clock High. He was also in Kindergarten Cop. There's Something About Mary, Black Hawk Down. He was at the height of his popularity, I think, in 1989, as far as his hunkiness is concerned. The guy...
And he was at the height of his hair, too.
Yes, his hair looked amazing. He was he was also in a movie called Two Moon Junction, where he definitely played the sultry, sexy dude. He just looked like a stud, and he's paired up with John Ashton. John Ashton, of course, everyone knows from Beverly Hills Cop. I love him in Some Kind of Wonderful, though, the John Hughes movie, with Eric Stoltz and Leah Thompson. And he kind of looks like my dad, which is really funny. I think that's why I like him so much. He was also in Midnight Run, too, the Robert De Niro, Charles Grodin movie. Anyways, they're buddy LA cops. So it's in Los Angeles in the 80s, and I loved buddy cops at that time. I loved the idea of what Los Angeles was supposed to be in the 80s, just based on the movies and TV shows I watched. And it had Richard Tyson, who I idolized at the time. I thought he was just the coolest guy. This show was supposed to be huge. It was supposed to be huge. It was inspired by Lethal Weapon. Brandon Tartikoff, the president of NBC at the time, went on record to say that. And he was very much like a big proponent of this show. And the theme song, which was an original song, was by Eddie Money. Eddie Money, of course, is a legendary rock star, take your pick of the songs, I Want to Go Back.
I want to go back.
2 Tickets to Paradise.
All over.
Diallo and I sang with Bodie karaoke.
Oh, yeah. Bodie carried us.
So
He
if you go,
stole the show.
yeah, in Thanksgiving years ago when Bodie was like 3 or 4, he sang "Take Me Home Tonight." Take me home tonight. That was his favorite song for the longest time. Of course,
shut the show down.
He shut the show down. Yeah. And Eddie Money is a legend. The song, I will just add a little caveat. It's not my favorite Eddie Money song, but there's something fun about it. And this intro to this show makes it really fun. Like, you're like, I want to know what's going to happen with these guys. This looks cool. Like, this looks kind of, you got a hunky guy and a grizzled veteran. What's going to happen next? We'll find out on Hardball. It was an NBC show. I wish it would have lasted longer. I wish it was available on Blu-ray or DVD, and because I love to watch the entire series again. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Diallo, what's your thoughts on Roll With It, a.k.a. Hardball, Eddie Money?
It wasn't my favorite song of everything. It very much Zach. But it was more like, and it's funny that you were saying that we should do it on TV Obscura with it, because I was watching it. I was like, I could have sworn we already did this show, but I guess we hadn't.
We might have talked about it.
Yeah, because I actually remember watching like the first few episodes, and I remember liking it a lot. But that was right around the time that I went off to college, and I just being able to watch TV regularly wasn't a thing, and I would have dropped off. But yeah, and I also was like, oh yeah, Zach totally had a crush on this guy as a kid.
I did. I had a man crush.
That's in those that realm of like, I can always tell. Oh, Zach wanted to be this guy.
I did. Yeah. I tried to grow my hair out like that. I couldn't do it.
No one can.
But then it was like the song didn't really it didn't do a lot for me. But it more like it just didn't really stick out, and I'm not super familiar with it. So just listening to it didn't really grab me. But
like Richard Tyson did to Corey.
I mean, that was an epic Sunday.
That was an amazing Sunday. Guys and gals, basically, Diallo and I used to go to this bar called JP's. It's not there anymore, right? It's gone.
It's gone.
It was a pandemic casualty, but I do believe it. I think it might be opening up a new one a few blocks down. I just noticed the other day.
Okay.
There's
on Wilshire?
There's a place
On Wilshire?
on Wilshire. Yeah, just a couple blocks down. It says JP's, but I don't think it's open yet, or I don't know if it's actually the same, but it's like on 10th Street or something like that, 10th or 9th or something.
Well, their old location in Santa Monica was one of those bars where, the floor was perpetually sticky. It'd been there forever.
It was a dive bar.
Dive bar through and through.
Yeah.
And Diallo and I would meet up there when I was living in Santa Monica, and usually to watch Ravens games, or I'd watch a Ravens game. And, and of course it means you have to start drinking at 10 a.m. because they're an East Coast team. And one Sunday, Richard Tyson was there and having a good time.
He was always there, by the way. He was always there. That was his normal hangout.
Yeah, I stumbled upon him one Sunday, and
he probably stumbled into you too.
He kind of liked me, and so he kept getting drunk like near me and with me, and would circle back around to me, and then at his most drunk, he's sitting next to me, started flinging coasters at the bartender, and then when she looks back and shoots a look at both of us, I'm like, I'm not with him, like I'm not with this guy right here. And I think someone was like, oh, you're both out of here, and I'm like, no, but I'm not with him. I'm not just sitting next to me. Can't be crime by association, and I got to stay, and he got kicked out. So
The whole time I was sitting on the side just laughing.
Oh my God.
Like, what's happening?
This is the only reason I brought this song up on the show. No, I'm just
There's a picture to commemorate it too.
Yes, I have a picture. Yep, it's on my Instagram, Facebook, and everything. So I mean, he was a cool guy. It was that one moment I was like, oh, what are you doing that for? That's kind of rude. And then I was like, oh, okay, you're super drunk.
It was fun times.
But
he also has a gimmick where in 3 O'Clock High, he doesn't like people like touching him, and so he would do that gimmick with people. He's like, touch me. And then you'd touch him, and he goes, I don't like people touching me, and he'd, I'm just messing with you. Buy me a beer.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm actually gonna echo Diallo a little bit. When I was listening to it, the theme song didn't. I mean, I was like, I could tell it was a Zach song. I could tell that it was Zach's show, but I didn't know it was Eddie Money. And now I kind of want to go back and re-listen to it again. Maybe I would have paid more attention to it at the time if I'd known it was Eddie Money, but I don't have any, it's not jumping in my head right now. Of all the ones that Zach sort of brought to the table, that was the one that kind of, it didn't sort of stick with me. And maybe that's a testimony to maybe it's one of his weaker songs or whatever, but I'm a big fucking Eddie Money fan, and I didn't know that was him.
Well, here's a little side note to it. It's Eddie Money and Sylvester LeVay.
Okay.
So Sylvester LeVay is the composer of the song and was a composer of TV and movies. I'm going to list off some of the movies that he did
that name is
TV shows.
Super familiar.
So check this out. He did these TV shows and movies in the 80s. Airwolf, of course.
That's a great theme song.
Cobra, the movie Mannequin, the television series Werewolf.
Never heard of it.
Right? And then once he gets into the 90s, Navy SEALs, the movie, nice. Stone Cold, the movie, Hot Shots, the movie. And so that's just a taste of some of the things that he's done.
Part 2?
He did not do Hot Shots Part 2, but he was the composer of the show as well. So
wait, hold on, wait. There was a Hot Shots TV show?
Yeah, I didn't know there was a show.
No. Sorry, he was the composer of the movie. I'm saying he's the composer of Hardball, the TV show.
Oh, okay, got it.
Sorry. Yeah, so he composed that song. That's his song, and then I'm sure just Eddie Money sang over it.
Oh, okay.
Listen now, can you see? Playing a whole new game. And yes, I do work out to the song.
Well, so was someone a baseball player on the show? I mean, there's a lot of baseball stuff happening.
Like he had to have been a baseball player or something,
right?
Yeah, it gets brought up. It's that baseball is kind of it's like a reoccurring theme in the show. I forget if it's.
We got to do this show.
Yeah, I think this has got to be a TV Obscura show.
Yeah, we will do that. We will do the show.
Yeah.
We will do the show.
Okay.
So it's and maybe we can get Richard Tyson back. Well, if we want him back on.
Hey, I'm open for it, and I won't even bring up JPs.
I'm gonna take a swing by the maybe new JPs, and maybe we could get you down here, Corey. We could do a live from JPs with Richard Tyson for TV.
And get kicked out of that one too.
Grand opening.
All right, so that's my picks. Let's roll on over to Corey. I want to know his picks now.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
I'm John, and I'm the host of Action. Every week, I'm joined by James.
Heyo.
And Dustin.
Hello.
And each week, we review, debate, and rank a different action movie.
We're creating the ultimate list of action movies.
From awful to awesome.
So if you want to hear 3 more white guys with beards talk about action movies.
And argue about where they belong on our list.
And decide you hate us because we made fun of your favorite movie.
Join us every Tuesday, and you can find us on your favorite podcatcher.
And Steven Seagal is a joke.
Have you been wondering where's the beef? Well, on our podcast, Throwback Trivia Takedown, you might just find that out, as well as some other things about the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
We're a nostalgic-based trivia show that pits two challengers head-to-head in a duel of the decades, with categories ranging from movies, TV and music, to slang, food, and fashion. You're sure to get the best in retro-themed trivia.
So strap on your jelly shoes, grab a surge, and walk like an Egyptian to your favorite podcast app and check out Throwback Trivia Takedown.
I heard even Mikey likes it.
And now, back to the show. Good one. I like that one.
Really good.
All right. So, my number 3 is Gimme a Break, sung by Nell Carter, and the song is called Gimme a Break.
Give me a break, now I know what it takes. I'm putting a new face on the old one, ready for anything. Playing with fate, not a moment too late. Showing the whole world, nothing can get me down. Ooh-hoo. Give me a break, yeah. Give me a break, 'cause I sure need one. Give me a break, yeah. I finally know where I belong. Give me a break, yeah. Give me a break, 'cause I sure need one. Give me a break, yeah. I finally know where I belong. Give me a break.
Give Me a Break, TV show, 1981 through 1987. The show had 2 theme songs. It had one for season 1, and then it was that same theme song was retooled for season 2, and then there's a new one for season 3. But I'll give you the whole overview from Wiki. Over its run, the series used 2 theme songs. The first was composed by Bob Christensen with lyrics by Bob Garrett and Marley Sims. 2 versions of this song were used, one for the first season and a new recording for the second. A new theme, with music by Jay Graydon and lyrics by Richard Page, was introduced in the 3rd season and used for the remainder of the show's run. The new theme has similarities to the first, but with a more positive attitude. Nell Carter performed both versions. So the version that we are talking about specifically is the 3rd season, the second version, second complete song, and started in the 3rd season. And, so I mentioned earlier that, Greatest American Hero didn't make any of our lists. It probably it'd be my top 5. But it was for a while sitting at my number 3 spot, because I always knew what my number 1 and my number 2 were going to be. And as I was doing what Diallo did, and I kind of followed his path, and I was like, let me just, go down these rabbit hole on YouTube and watching, theme songs. Another moment where I was like, oh my God, I forgot that I used to watch Gimme a Break so much as a kid, like, seeing the dad on there. I was like, oh my God, I remember him. I remember obviously everybody remembers Nell Carter. I adored her as a kid. I thought she was amazing. And I never knew, this confirmed it. I kind of always speculated that was her singing it. And I think her voice is absolutely outstanding. I sent Zach and Diallo a link that has both versions on it, and I do think the second version or the second song, which is, remember again guys, the first song has another version to it, it's just kind of a retooled, but the second one, this whole completely new song, I love that. Again, my vocabulary is not great. That synthy sort of intro to the song at the beginning, it felt more modern, even though it's now not modern, but at the time it felt modern, and it kind of still feels modern because synthwave is back in vogue. So it just, that second theme song really catches me. I love the lyrics. I love what it's about and everything. And I love the fact that Nell Carter is the lead on the show, and she's also singing the song, and she's singing it beautifully, absolutely stunning. But yeah, I loved the show back in the day. Used to watch the fuck out of it. And again, it's another one of those ones where I was like, I haven't thought about this show in 30 years, and all of a sudden it comes flooding back to me how much I loved it. But yeah, this theme song is awesome. And Diallo, I know it was gonna make your list, so kick off the discussion. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it somehow it popped back up on my radar like some months ago, and I hadn't really heard it in a while, but it was the second version that popped up, and it was funny because like it started playing, and I just started singing along with it, and I was like, oh man, I can't believe I remember all the lyrics even though I hadn't heard it in forever. But yeah, that was a show that I remember watching from day one. It used to be, destination watching every week. And I do remember when it switched over to the second song, and I remember loving the second theme better than the first one. The first one's more like, it's more that like typical, like it's almost, even this is an 80s show, but it was almost like that late 70s, like mod kind of deal. The first version was, and then the second one was like, it was more like adult contemporary or something, like R&B / adult contemporary. And actually it was written by Richard Page, I think was one of the writers, and he's of the lead singer from Mr. Mister, and Yes. So he sang "Broken Wings" and "Kyrie." It's
Kyrie. I love both those songs. Yeah.
So there's like again, there you go. You get the pedigree. Like it all kind of like makes sense why this song like hits. You know what I mean? And it's
and
like
Nell Carter's vocals.
And she I remember like back in the day, I knew that she had like on Broadway, and she had won a Tony Awards and stuff, and then that was like her being on the TV show was like her thing. So I always knew that she sang the songs, but yeah, she's it's great. It brought us Joey Lawrence, who doesn't I almost forget that he was on that show on T-Now.
And also weird fun fact that I just saw, it was at the time the only TV show sort of in history that featured an all Polish family, and I was like, oh
wow,
okay.
Yeah, I
didn't know that was a big deal, but okay. And I always remember in the intro when she's doing the vacuuming and she bends over to pick something up and she like sucks the goldfish up and everything. I was watching it and I was like, oh my god, I remember, and I loved all of this, and especially this song. Zach, do you have any memories of "Give Me a Break"?
Yeah, I
You're
remember.
Like, give me a break. Of course I do.
Give me a break. Nell Carter is. I remember. Gosh, this sitcom like dealt with so many like topical issues, just like other sitcoms did. But this one resonated more with me. I don't know why. Maybe I liked Joey Lawrence back then. I still do, and his brother Matthew was on it as well. Mm-hmm. And I think this was at the same time Facts of Life was on. Facts of Life had like Mackenzie Austin, and I was like, Mackenzie Austin or Joey Lawrence? Which kid do I like more? And I was always more of a Joey Lawrence guy. No offense, but gosh, this show like was a really good show, and I don't know why, but I always thought it was cool that she sang the song as well. Look, diversity is always an issue in the 80s and the 70s and whatnot, and I think this show dealt with some like racial things as well, and I think it wasn't the first time I'd seen that on television, but it was definitely Nell Carter had like a emotion about her that made you just want to. She was very lovable, she wasn't likable, she was lovable. So I don't know, I really love the show. It's got a warm soft spot in my heart. It's very well known to me, and the theme song definitely kicks. I prefer the second one too. People need to realize this show was on for like 7 or 8 years. So it was, in the early 80s was when there was going to be more of that disco vibe. And, now it's got more of that 80s vibe to it. So I loved it.
Remember when one of the daughters married like Jonathan Silverman, I think is the actor?
Yeah, Jonathan Silverman was on the show. Rosie O'Donnell was on the show.
Well, you mentioned it was up against like Facts of Life and stuff at the time. I did watch some Facts of Life, but like I watched much more Give Me a Break than I ever did Facts of Life.
I think I did too. It's not like I didn't dislike Facts of Life, but I just didn't vibe off it like that. Yeah, I did.
I don't think we all were on at the same time though. But no, they were. I watched all of them.
I think we all watched all because we didn't have much of a.
There wasn't much to watch.
We had like 6 shows on at the time. So.
Well, do a favorite TV dad watch list, I'll definitely bring the dad on this show up at some point. I'm totally blanking on his name, but yeah, Diallo, you mentioned he did like pass away like midway through the production or something.
Yeah.
But I'm frantically scrolling down IMDb, and he's like not even like anywhere on the show's page.
Yeah,
but I loved that dude back in the day.
I feel like that had something to do with the change in tone of the theme song too. It's super vague memory, but
we should do an episode of TV Obscura that like pivoted, and when one of the main characters, like John Ritter on 8 Simple Rules. Not that we're gonna do that show,
Eight
but
is Enough is another one. Actually.
But yeah, 8 is Enough, or Hogan's Family, or whatever, where they changed. Sandy Duncan left, and then suddenly I forget. Anyways, we should do a theme like that.
Yeah, because Sandy Duncan was the one that came on, right? She's the one with the glass eye, right?
Yeah, and then because it was called Valerie before that, and then it became Hogan's Family.
Yeah, one day I would like to talk about that one because it started as Valerie, then it turned into the Hogan Family, and I watched it all the way through. Like I watched it as Valerie, and I watched it when it turned into Hogan Family as well.
I mean, we could do My Sister Sam and talk about
together through the years. That was
if we do any sort of controversial episodes and cover My Sister Sam, we can go down a whole rabbit hole. Anyways.
Well, speaking of sort of, I guess, controversial nowadays, but maybe not so much back in the day, my number 2 is Good Old Boys by Waylon Jennings for Dukes of Hazzard.
Just a good old boy, never meaning no harm. Beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they was born. Straightening the curves, flattening the hills. Someday the mountain might get them, but the law never will. Making their way. That's just a little bit more than the law will allow.
Just a good old boy.
Never meaning no harm.
Come on, this song's a banger.
Beats all you never saw, been in trouble with the law since the day they were born.
Taking the way. No, you got to get into the
only way they know how.
Yeah, that's.
Than the law would allow.
You got Cooter, you got Enos. Cooter and
system
Enos.
like a 2 modern day Robin Hood.
Guys and gals, I know it's not politically correct or anything, but I grew up on Dukes of Hazzard. I had the toys. I had the Matchbox cars. I had the Wrist Racer. Do you remember the Wrist Racer? Which was
I do, because you send it to me all the time. I'm like, I'm gonna get it for you someday. Stop hinting.
It was the first time that I ever saw like a super deformed thing, like how the proportions were kind of like squished in, and I loved it. Bo and Luke Duke. I mean, I loved that show. I adored that show. Obviously, Catherine Bach or whatever, Daisy, obviously made me a man up there with Wonder Woman and Pam Grier. This was my childhood right here, guys and gals. Dukes of Hazzard. I loved this show so much. Had the toys, played with it. And I know it's kind of like one of those things where now we can't see it anywhere. All because it has the General Lee and the Confederate flag on the hood. But as a kid, I didn't know what the fuck that was. I just thought the car was cool. It was orange. The doors couldn't open, so you had to go through the thing. It had an interesting flag on the hood. Now, keep in mind, I'm saying that as like 5-year-old me. I understand what that flag means now, but back then, I didn't know. You know what I mean? And I love that show. Thought it was awesome. And that theme song, I still sing it pretty much, at least once a week. At least once a week for my entire fucking life. Now, it's not my number one. My number one is one that I sing maybe even more than once a week. But this theme song slaps, and I have something about it too. The theme song was written and performed by Waylon Jennings and was released in 1980 as a single where it hit #1 on the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart. So it's interesting. So Zach, going back to your discussion about the Genesis song for the Insiders, so that's a song that was, existed before the show. And now here's a song that kind of, it's become its own thing, outside of the show, and I just find that interesting.
Yeah. I mean, look, that song is iconic, and the TV show up until 10, 15 years ago was pretty iconic too, as far as television is concerned. Like, memorable shows from CBS's heyday in the late 70s, early 80s. It's like such a bizarre, like, hillbilly premise, if you think about it, but man, it's memorable. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah,
there really isn't. And it's a shame that, hindsight's 2020, right? And like, if we known back then that, well, it's probably not a good idea to put that Confederate flag up on the, but I mean, people were rocking Confederate flags that, like, the Freebirds were a heel tag team in wrestling, and they were wearing a Confederate flag to get heat, but yet the Dukes of Hazzard were rocking a Confederate flag, and they were the good guys, so it was a mixed message. It's a shame that, the show was fun, and I had the toys. I had the Chips figures, and I had the Dukes of Hazzard figures too, and the 3 3/4 ones, and it's funny, or not funny, but it's crazy that the two lead guys became wackadoos and fell off the turnip truck, but there were some great side characters on there. If you got a name like Enos and Cooter, that is two of the funniest names I think I've ever heard for characters.
And Roscoe
Pico Train. Like, that is a great name, dude. So, and CBS at that time was on fire with their shows. They were just pumping out great stuff. Magnum PI and, Murder, She Wrote, and so many fun, they had their own niche, right? So yeah, this song holds every time I hear it, it takes me back to that time. It holds a soft spot in my heart. Yeah,
and it's funny because, I feel like it was about 15 years ago, right before the show kind of got canceled off all the streaming services. I was like, I kind of was doing a little rewatch of it, and the first season is so different because they filmed I think in Georgia, whereas the rest of the seasons, the next 4 or 5 seasons, is they go to California and everything, and it's just like, oh my god, I didn't really have nostalgia for the Georgia scenes. I had more nostalgia for the latter stuff because it started in 1979. I was 1 year old at that point. And then, of course, the legacy now of that show is the reason, 1969 Chargers are so expensive and rare is because they destroyed a ton of them over the course of the 6-year series, to the point where they made that car rare because they destroyed so many of them.
Right.
That's amazing.
Diallo, Dukes of Hazzard, buddy.
F that show. Get the Confederacy. Down with the Confederacy. No, it's actually really interesting because, I was, a kid, and I was right in that little demographic where it was probably the most popular. I remember on lunch boxes, the cars,
right.
We'd all talk about it. We watched it, and I wasn't really aware of that the piece about the Confederate flag, but I grew up in California, so I wasn't really exposed wasn't exposed to that piece. I do remember one time we went down to a family reunion down in the South, and everyone wanted to watch TV, and that was back when there was one TV in the house, and I was like a kid, and I really wanted to watch Dukes of Hazzard, but I didn't and that now that I'm an adult, I realize why no one would let me watch it. They all wanted to watch MASH, and I was so upset. But I mean, I get it now. I joked with friends now. It's like, well, that's the one exception to the rule. Like Dukes of Hazzard, you kind of let that slide. But it's also because they were it's almost like they were caricatures. And it wasn't like, that show wasn't even about holding up any sort of like values that had anything to do with that flag. That was just kind of a part of their world, right?
Right.
And so, I don't know. Still, yeah, I'm not a person that likes the idea of like canceling shows and things that existed just because we're, not on board with it. Because I mean, it happened, right? Like,
right.
That you don't necessarily have to celebrate it. But anyway, I'm babbling.
Wasn't the horn on the car?
Yeah, the Dixie. Yeah. So I don't know. It was like a deep part of my childhood. I love the theme song. We'd always laugh like the cars. We'd watch the cars land after the jumps, and you could totally see them just break in half, and then they're still like and like the door, like it was always like you were always trying to see if they actually opened the door. I was always like, why does Bo always drive? Luke never, like he only drove a couple times. It was
that was a big
remember
deal.
when like the cousins took over because like Bo and Luke were like a contract dispute. Daisy Dukes. And then Enos, I think, had a spinoff show. I think he did. I think he did.
I don't know, but I mean. Like you brought up, I like that you brought up the fact that it is parody. It was a comedic show. It never glorified the fact I don't remember them calling out the flag. I remember just being a thing on the car.
It was just there. Yeah. It wasn't about like, the show wasn't about like any of those values that you would associate with that. It was just, that would just happen. That's where they lived.
And the car was called the General Lee, right?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, it wasn't like, they weren't like, if the show was on today, it would feel like it would be trying to like touch on some of those issues and stuff. But it was like it was just two guys like in trouble with the law and whatever. Like they were fighting. They were like fighting the system like two modern day Robin Hoods.
Robin Hoods.
I mean, that was the dynamic, and so. It was just kind of like window dressing, and
it was like an accoutrement.
Yeah.
It was a
accoutrement. Yeah. I was looking. Yeah, they had an Enos spinoff show. I don't think it lasted very long. I remember when it dropped.
Okay.
Yeah.
The fact that his name's Enos and Cooter. I mean, it's hilarious.
I see where you're going with that. I see where you're going.
These characters will not pop up in Bodie's notes. I'm telling you that right now.
No, not at all. And I was like, okay, this will be sort of my one sort of mainstream one, because that's what I said. Like, I think I bumped Greatest American Hero because I was like, I don't want to do like two sort of mainstream songs that kind of get radio play, especially when I came across Give Me a Break and remembered how much I loved that. I was like, you know what, I'll keep the Waylon Jennings one and sort of bump Greatest American Hero. But my number one holds a special place in my heart because it's the first time as a kid I recognized that like this is a theme song for a show, but I love it on its own, and I would sing it like sort of on its own, and it's probably because of how it's sung, which is what I love about it. But I am, of course, talking about, according to our new arrival, the Mr. Belvedere theme song.
Streaks on the china never mattered before. Who cared when you drop kicked your jacket as you came through the door? No one glared, but sometimes things get turned around and no one spared. All hands look out below. There's a change in the status quo. Gonna need all the help that we can get. According to our new arrival, life is more than mere survival. We just might live the good life yet.
Streaks on the china never mattered before. Who cares? I seriously, guys and gals, fucking seriously, I sing that in the shower at least 3 or 4 times a week.
What are you doing
for
while you're
real?
Are you shampooing, conditioning, or something else?
I'm streaking.
Streaks on the China. Don't worry about the streaks on the glass in your shower.
There you go. So, Mr. Belvedere aired from 1985 to 1990. I by the way, totally forgot it went into 1990. Kind of never think of it as a 1990 show. But the show's theme song, according to our new arrival, was performed by ragtime singer Leon Redbone. It was written by Judy Hart Angelo and Gary Portnoy, who also co-wrote the theme songs for Cheers and Punky Brewster.
Yep.
Cheers was one that I was kind of thinking about having on as well, because I used to listen to that one, but I was like, this is a little bit mainstream. I kind of wanted, at least, I don't know, I feel like Cheers would be the most mainstream out of all of them, if I picked that one. So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that one. So it's nice that I'm kind of like have a little bit of an adjacent to it. I loved Mr. Belvedere, the show, as a kid. Obviously, it's one of those funny, zany sitcom ideas about this, butler or whatever has to work for a family. I don't even remember the setup, to be honest with you guys, but the song is burned into my earwig, into my ears, and I love that ragtime sort of singing. As a kid I didn't know what that was called, but I love it, and I still love it now. Like, I legit adore this song. I think it's so much fun, and it's one of those songs that I feel like it's fun to sing. Like, some songs are just fun to sing, and I feel like this is one of them. So Zach, Mr. Belvedere, were you a fan?
I remember the kid being really annoying on the show.
Yes.
I couldn't stand this kid. But I love Mr. Belvedere. He always was like, because he was annoyed with him all the time. Leon Redbone, for those that don't know, is a legend. He's a legendary artist. A lot of people would recognize him from the what are those claymation Christmas movie or Christmas shows back in the day. I think he was he was like the snowman or something.
Oh, no shit.
I believe so. He might have even popped up in Elf. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like he might have been. He performed with Andy Kaufman and Frank Zappa and Tom Waits, and he played by ear. He's a self-taught musician who played by ear.
Wow.
The guy he was on Saturday Night Live. My stepdad and my mom loved Leon Redbone. They saw him many times up in the Catalyst Club up in Santa Cruz back in the day.
Dang.
So to have Leon Redbone singing your theme song is like super unique. It's the same as getting like Frank Zappa to sing a theme song for a show. That would have been wild too. But I forgot that this show had a theme song. So when you sent that to me, I'm like, oh, is it just going to be, music? Like no vocals? And then I heard it. I'm like, wait, that's Leon Redbone. Holy shit. Okay, cool. No, it's great. It's great, man. It's super nostalgic and brings back the vibes.
Nice. Diallo?
I remember the song. I never really watched Mr. Belvedere very much, but it was one of those ones I as soon as the show comes on, I would watch the opening, and it wasn't super catchy for me, but it was noteworthy, Like
yeah,
da 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 da.
Yeah, ragtime gal.
Yeah. And I actually like how it opens, because it starts with it's like the piano, and it's very stately, and then
and then it kicks into that fun sort of style.
Yeah. So I dug that about that. So yeah, Mr. Belvedere is a good one. It's There are no bad
theme songs at all. But that's like I said, that's something that I still sing so fucking regularly. It's weird. It's really weird how much I sing this song, but it's just because it's such a fun song to sing.
And I'll throw a little caveat. He did not perform with Andy Kaufman and Frank Zappa. And Tom Waits. He was compared to them.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for correcting that. Now no one will send us angry letters. Yeah. So my honorable mention, what I sort of broke it down as, because I noticed that we all had songs with lyrics and everything. And this song is also one of my favorite theme songs of all time, but it has no lyrics. It's all instrumental. So I was like, you know what? Let me just kind of put it over here as its sort of separate thing. So my honorable mention is, because it's all instrumental, is the theme song for Night Court. So Night Court ran from 1984 to 1992. Famously, it's Corey's second favorite sitcom of all time after Seinfeld. But the theme song was composed by Jack Elliott, who composed the Charlie's Angels theme song.
Whoa.
And featured Ernie Watts on saxophone. Watts has toured with the Rolling Stones and Frank Zappa. But Jack Elliott won a BMI TV Music Award for the Night Court theme song in 1987, 1988, and 1989. So I love, like I said, it's my second favorite sitcom of all time. And for a while, it was fucking impossible to find streaming anywhere. The only place you could actually find it would be on Amazon, but you'd have to buy the seasons. And then Amazon smartly started doing their freebie, series with, commercials and stuff, like a streaming service with commercials. And they put Night Court on there. And let me tell you, when I watched, the first episode I watched, I hummed and that entire fucking song without having heard it in 20 years. I was all the way through it, rhyming with it, going with it and everything like that. Didn't miss a beat. And I was like, man, this fucking theme song is just burned into my memory. But it is one of the, I do tend to gravitate more towards lyrics anyways. I'm a vocalist whore. I love vocalists. I love lyrics, and so, I didn't, even though this is probably one of my favorite, theme songs of all time, it wasn't going to make my list because it doesn't have any lyrics, unfortunately. But I found it was a nice place to put it, was in my honorable mentions. So, Diallo, was Night Court a part of your rotation growing up?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. Marky Post?
Yeah,
yes.
Marky Post, yes. It's actually funny because, Marky Post, on the show, she just was Marky Post. But then I saw her on, a late night talk show once, and I was like, whoa, she's hot.
Yeah. There were a couple episodes where, they would kind of play up, they put her in something, skimpy. And I remember as a kid, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, well, what's
happening?
My God. Yeah, I had no idea.
I think she was on a couple episodes of The Fall Guy as well. So
she was on Buck Rogers in some very revealing outfits. Shout out really quick. One of my favorite Instagram pages is called at Buck Rogers Babes. And all they do is just feature Buck Rogers Babes. And I'm like, holy shit, there are a lot of hotties on that show. Anyways.
No, yeah, I mean, Night Court, the thing that because I thought about Night Court a little bit, and I like the theme song. Is the best part for me is the cowbell or whatever whatever part towards the end. But
dun,
when I'm
dun, dun, brunch,
yeah,
dun, yeah,
that part. But when I'm thinking about that song, because there was another song that was that has no lyrics that I actually had contemplating putting in my list, and it was for Barney Miller. And Barney Miller, now that I think about it, they both have similar, it's almost like Barney Miller. Barney Miller's the 70s version, and Night Court's the 80s version, but they're the same song. Yeah, if that makes any sense. It's just
I used to watch Barney Miller back in the day.
Yeah, so
anyway, for sure.
Yeah,
I would tag on to that too. That just because it doesn't have lyrics doesn't mean it's not one of the greatest theme songs of all time. I mean, Buck Rogers will definitely come back on this show. Magnum PI, A-Team. You think of all these theme songs of shows that have no lyrics.
Taxi was one.
Airwolf.
I think
good one.
Yeah, Airwolf, Taxi. Just happened to be that we chose a lot of songs that did have lyrics. That being said, there were many that I was like, should I do this one? Should I do that one? And then there were some really obscure ones that I was like, yeah, well, okay, down the road maybe, you know? So I'm glad we're going to do an annual show. I mean, Night Court is a staple. It always was, always will be. And that theme song is super memorable. And, the funny thing about Cheers, everyone knows the Cheers theme song, but like the incidental music on Cheers, which was performed by Craig Saffin, by the way.
Okay.
And I think people know that music as well. So it's not always just the stuff with the lyrics. It's the incidental stuff too, in between each scene that really gets you. But I'm glad this is going to be a reoccurring annual show.
Me too.
And I'm so glad both of you chose songs from shows that were either mainstream or not mainstream, because it just shows like a variety and a diversity of like styles. And I love that.
Yeah, no, I love all of our picks, and it's kind of funny how, some shows back then might have been mainstream, but now are obscure because of fucking streaming issues and everything. So Zach, it always goes back to our conversation about how movies can go from being cult movies to being mainstream and vice versa and everything. But yeah, this was a great collection of shows. Diallo, I hope it was everything you wanted it to be.
It was everything. It's actually funny you brought up the Cheers theme song, and we just covered, a little segue, we just covered an episode of Battlestar Galactica called Taking a Break from All Your Worries. Is that the name of the song?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And because it was an episode where they established the bar on Galactica and the hangar deck. And
so, that's cool.
Yeah.
So clearly it's a reference, to Cheers and everything. Yeah.
When'd you like to get away?
Out the airlock.
Right. No, that's cool. That is a fun fact from your show, Galactica, actually, isn't it, Diallo?
Galactica, actually. Yeah, I love the original Battlestar theme song. Didn't make, doing these, I kind of defaulted towards more in the spirit of TV Obscura, which is like, the Greatest American Hero I love to death, but it's sort of like everybody already knows that one.
Yeah.
And so
that was kind of my thinking too. A little bit.
It didn't really feel like I was bringing anything to the table in regards to that. Mary Tyler Moore, obviously I love it, but I was more into like feel good vibe. I love Mary Tyler Moore so much. I love that song. But yeah, Galactica, actually, we're
yeah. Well, Diallo, why don't you plug that, buddy?
Yeah, well, we do breakdowns of Battlestar Galactica, the reimagined show from 2003 to 2009, I think it went. We are solidly in the second half of the third season now. It's before the Baltar trial episodes, but we're just getting there. We're about to do The Woman King, which features Hilo as he's trying to stop racist killings of Sagittarians in the Hangar Bay. And my co-host is Jamie Smith. We do that pretty much every week. And once we're done with that, we're also doing like some of the webisodes, and we're going to do some of the TV movies. There was Blood and Chrome. There was we were talking about discussing the Caprica, which is like kind of a prequel show.
Yeah, wasn't it just one season?
Yeah, it was just one season. It was on Sci-Fi Channel. Hit or mostly miss, but the last 5 episodes were a banger. But most people didn't hang out that long to see that.
I didn't make it past I think the first 5 episodes.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't the last 5, but the last 5 of that season.
I didn't make it.
Yeah, no one did. That's why I got canceled.
I know.
But yeah, if you're into hearing about the new Battlestar, we cover all that stuff. Plus, I bring to the table, because I love the original show, I often talk about like what elements I can see from the original show that ended up in this new version. So it can serve both fans of old and new. So
as someone who watched both series and who listens to the podcast, I appreciate that aspect of it. I do like the comparisons.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you. Yeah, well, thank you for doing that show. Zach, what you got going on, buddy? What's well, we're stepping 1 foot into May right now. So what's going on in May at $2 late fee? I almost called it TV Obscura.
We are covering Vision Quest from 1985, and it's phenomenal. Speaking of music, phenomenal soundtrack. Well, not all the songs are phenomenal. Some songs are a little left to be desired, but the songs that hit are amazing.
Touch me once and you feel it's true.
I love that song.
And we have an interview coming up with Raphael Sabarge of Werewolf fame. He speaks about the TV show Werewolf and his time on that. It's very limited time, but he has some fond memories, positive ones overall. Anyways, a lot of stuff going on in regards to $2 late fee and territory marks. This is a busy month. It's a 5-week May month. So it's 5 weeks of content, y'all. And on the flip side of that, over at Podcasting After Dark, we have a full slate of stuff going on as well, don't we?
Yeah, well, a week after this episode, we're going to be dropping our interview with Bill Thornbury, who played Jody, the older brother, in Phantasm.
Speaking of music as well, but we talk a lot about music on that one.
Yeah, that is a very musical episode. Honestly, I'd say it's like almost 55% music and maybe 45% Phantasm, but it's a wonderful discussion. Bill Thornbury is a beautiful human being. He was very sweet. He was very nice. He was also very just level. Zach mentioned it at one point. It's like I think it was on Wrap Up After Dark. He's like a 5 the entire time. He doesn't go low. He doesn't go high. He's very chill. Bill Thornbury is a vibe himself, so I think that'll come across.
Yeah, as little Davey Franco says in the Lego Ninjago movie, he's the definition of chill.
He is. He definitely is the definition of chill. And yeah, we got all kinds of fun stuff. We got another episode of 80s Kids Unite will come out this month. Zach and I have a fun movie that we're going to be breaking down that our pal Cam Sully picked via Patreon. So if you would like to also pick a movie for us to break down and review, you can swing on over to patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. That's patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Honestly, all our slots are filling fast for the producer tier, where we might have to put a cap on it at some point, buddy.
Wow. Well,
I know
you guys are filling.
These aren't bad problems to have. Trust me.
It's not a bad thing when every one of your slots is filled.
Yeah. The sleazy Z strikes again. But yeah, we have a great month, and as we talked about, this is going to be part 1 of a part 2 series, so expect another fun discussion on TV Obscura next month about our favorite cartoon theme songs. And I am so excited, Zach, that this is going to be an annual thing, because I think that these discussions were awesome. I loved it. I love, actually seeing shows that I've heard about my entire life, like BJ and the Bear. I just hear about it mentioned, and now I actually see what it looks like and everything. I thought this was a lot of fun. I hope everybody else enjoyed this as much as we did doing it. But love you guys, love doing TV Obscura with you all, and as always,
catch me on the obscure side with my best friend Bear.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim.
And I'm Dean.
And we're the hosts of Talking Back. We're a
Be
retro-based
sure to
podcast
subscribe to
covering movies,
Podcasting After
comics,
Dark
video games,
and give us a
and more.
5-star rating
Check us
on
out
iTunes.
every Monday where we hit the rewind button
Support
and dig into some of our
Podcasting After
favorite
Dark
content
on
from the
Patreon.
past. We like to keep things
Follow
fun,
us on
lighthearted,
Instagram and
informative.
Facebook at
Do you feel like
Podcasting
you need
After
more
Dark.
nostalgia in your life?
And visit
Then
us
check
next
out
time
Talking
for
Back.
another
We're
installment
available
of
everywhere
Podcasting
podcasts
After
are
Dark
found.
with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.